Hello everyone. So today my group and I will be presenting Toxoplasma and we'll be focusing on Toxoplasma gondii. And each of us will cover different aspects of this parasite, and I'll begin with a quick introduction about what this is. Toxoplasma gondii is a single-celled eukaryotic parasite from the Epicomplexan group. That means it has specialized structures that let it invade and survive inside host cells. It's an obligate intracellular parasite, so it can only live and reproduce inside another organism's cell. The infection it causes is called toxoplasmosis, and it's closely related to Plasmodium, which is the parasite that causes malaria. Even though it's microscopic, it's one of the most widespread parasites in the world.
Some stressors to Toxoplasma gondii include host immunity, which aims to eliminate the tachyozoids in the body, and antibodies made by the host that can limit the spread, but they can't eradicate the cysts. There also could be nutrient deprivation, which limits the nutrients or use of autophagy to restrict the parasite. You can also use drugs, which would be targeted for Toxoplasma gondii, and used in the treatment of this. There is also environmental stressors. They can face temperature extremes, desiccation, and chemical exposure in soil or water. The adaptations they've derived to prevent dying off would be the intracellular vacuoles, which form a parasitophorous vacuole in host cells that resist fusion with lysosomes to avoid destruction. They can also complete stage conversion between tachyozoids and bradiozoids. The tachyozoids are the acute rapid spread, and then the bradiozoids are the dormant times, and they can resist immune clearance and survive for a while in the host. There's also oocyst resilience, which they have a oocyst wall, which is highly resistant and can survive months in most soil and water, and in different disinfectants. They also complete behavioral manipulation. They can do this in rodents and alter neural pathways to reduce the fear of cats and increase the transmission likelihood of Toxoplasma gondii itself.
Toxoplasma gondii can be primarily found in the external environment in forms of cat feces, contaminated tissue, or you can find it in its spore-related form in soil, water, food, etc., or you can find it in its parasitic host, which could be either the definitive host or it could be the intermediate host. The definitive host being any feline part of the Felidae family, or it can be any endotherm other than Felidae for the intermediate host.
Toxoplasma gondii belongs to the domain Eukaryota, which means it has a complex cells with the nucleus. It's in phylum Epicomplexa, which is a group of parasites that all have a specialized structure called the apical complex, which helps them invade host cells. Within Epicomplexa, it's part of the class Conodacida and the order Eucocidiorida, which includes other cocidium parasites that undergo complex life cycles in animals. It falls under the family Sarcocystidae, which contains parasite-forming tissue cysts in their host. And finally, its genus is Toxoplasma, species gondii.
The generic life cycle of Toxoplasma gondii revolves around existing in two different forms. In its inactive form, which exists in endotherms, and then in its active form, which is in the family Felidae. To start off, you will have a spore-related oocyte, which is a immature ovum that has the capability of spreading spores. An endotherm will ingest these spores either through contaminated feces, tissue, food, water, etc., etc. Once inside, the bradyzoites and sporozoites will be released into the epithelium of the small intestines and will undergo asexual reproduction to transform into tachyzoites. When they become tachyzoites, they have the capability of infecting other endotherms, again through ingestion of contaminated water, meat, etc. It will then spread to the lymph nodes and small intestines and begin cyst formation, which is the intro to toxoplasmosis. After this, it has the capability to spread to Felidae through, again, ingestion. And once it's in Felidae, this is when it begins its active form. This is when it's actually infectious. Inside Felidae, bradyzoites will be released into the small intestines, where it will undergo asexual reproduction first, sexual reproduction, and then form an unsporulated oocyte. From there, the unsporulated oocyte can become a sporulated oocyte, which will then just recycle. Something to note here is that if you are infected with Toxoplasma, then you have the capability of spreading that disease to the fetus, which could result in a miscarriage.
Humans are usually infected by tissue cysts that come from undercooked meat or oocysts that come from the cat feces and contaminated food, water, or soil. And then once they're in there, it can cause acute infection, which can be due to tachyozoids that are fast replicating, and in healthy individuals, this could usually be asymptomatic. Then chronic infection can be due to radiozoites that will be in the tissue for long term and can live in the brain, retina, skeletal muscle, or heart. And this can be inert for many years. And then when the immune suppression turns into severe disease, this can arise when the parasite burden and the immune response together overwhelm the host's tissues. Symptoms of Toxoplasma gondii vary between the immunocompetent individuals and immunocompromised. In immunocompetent patients, it's usually just asymptomatic, or if there is symptoms, it's mild flu-like illness that can lead to fatigue, muscle aches, swollen lymph nodes, and usually this infection will go latent. In immunocompromised patients, like people with HIV, have had an organ transplant, or they're undergoing chemotherapy, there can be reactivation of latent cysts that can cause a life-threatening disease. This is commonly causing toxoplasmic encephalitis, which can lead to seizures, headaches, and confusion. It could also cause pneumonia, myocarditis, or disseminated infections.
Okay, so for the diagnosis, there's serological antibody tests, and then those are IgM and IgG, molecular tests and histopathology, as well as PCR and images of the brain lesions within the patients. To the right is an example of one of the serological tests. This one is IgG. For IgG, it's for chronic toxoplasmosis, and for IgM, it's for acute. For the histopathology, a doctor usually takes a sample of the tissue of a suspected patient and tests that for toxoplasmosis. And for pregnant women, they usually take a sample of the amniotic fluid or of the fetus's blood and test that for toxoplasmosis. Okay, so for the treatment, the most effective we know of right now for toxoplasmosis are the 3 drugs listed above: pyrimethamine, leucovorin, or sulfadiazine. And these are all patient dependent, so some of them are 1 drug, some of them are 3, some of them are 2. For healthy individuals, they usually require no treatment unless their symptoms are prolonged, and then it's usually just the pyrimethamine and the sulfadiazine. For pregnant women, it's usually a combination of all 3. And then for immunocompromised patients, it's usually pyrimethamine and sulfadiazine. And then the leucovorin is in the bottom corner, and then the other 2 are according to where they are on the side. Okay, so for prevalence and prevention, 1/3 of the world's population is affected, and like I said, this is mainly weak immune systems, pregnant women, infants. Some precautions are basically just letting the public be known what toxoplasmosis is and how to avoid it. So, like cooking your meat fully, washing your fruits and veggies, making sure immunocompromised patients or pregnant women don't change the litter box. Sandboxes can be an alternative for litter boxes. And obviously using a meat thermometer is a really good source for making sure you cook your meat properly.
Okay, so to conclude everything, Toxoplasma gondii is a widespread epicomplexan parasite that can infect nearly all warm-blooded animals, with cats being its definitive host. Most infections are silent or mild, but it poses serious risks for pregnant women and immunocompromised individuals, where it can cause brain and eye disease. The good news is that it's preventable through simple steps like cooking meat thoroughly, washing the produce, and handling cat litter carefully. So while Toxoplasma gondii is common worldwide, awareness and prevention are key to reducing its impact. So these are all our sources.